Yeah, I would give it a start, guys. I guess we won't have any other external participants then. Yeah,
Okay, we'll have many people watching afterwards.
Exactly, yeah. So welcome to those who are watching. Yeah, as always, like, yeah, we are these 5 people that are actively developing the OCN further. But we have also Robert here today, and we also have Dietrich here today, which is good. Yeah, and Brock, of course. Hello to you as well. Yeah, we will record this for everyone afterwards to watch it. And yeah, looking forward to the discussions that we will have around the OCN. Quickly, agenda for this afternoon. Yeah, we quickly go through what is going on a business side or from projects and all that kind of stuff. Then John will go into the details of the development, and we have some exciting news to share about releases and other exciting proposals. And we will then finish it up with a Q&A and a wrap up. Yeah, some small introduction around the Share&Charge Foundation. We are a nonprofit organization with no shareholders that wants to support the electric mobility industry with open innovation. And we have some exciting supporters that are supporting what we are working on, and we are closely working with them in developing it further. And the foundation is obviously also open for others to join. And the main thing that we are talking about also in this developer call is the Open Charging Network, which is a decentralized and open implementation of the OCPI hub concept. And this is a visual representation of how the Open Charging Network can look like, with these OCN nodes that everyone can set up to be connected to everyone else on the network. Yeah, and 2 resources that might be important for you throughout the call. One being our wiki on docs@openchargingnetwork.org that you can open up. There are many resources that describe what the Open Charging Network is and how it works. And we have the repositories on code.openchargingnetwork.org that you might want to open up as well. The most exciting news over the last weeks were definitely that the Open Charge map connected to the OCN. So now CPOs and EMSPs, they can push their POI information to the Open Charge map via the Open Charging Network. You can check out the Share&Charge website to learn more about that. And what else was on? We were heavily working on the OCN Service Interface, and we're publishing a visual representation or explanation of how this all would work, how external services get access to OCPI messages that are sent between 2 parties on the OCN. And here you can see a Medium link, or a link to a Medium blog post that describes exactly what the service interface is about and what is so exciting about it, at least from our point of view. Yeah, that's so far. And then I would hand over to John to talk about our exciting news around all the development.
Okay, thanks, Chris. As Chris mentioned, I'm a developer with the Share&Charge Foundation. I'll be going through the development updates, talking about our recent releases and upcoming releases, quick documentation update, and then discussing issues and proposals. And we also added an issue template to our repository, so I will go over that. If we could move along to next slide, which is talking about our recent OCN releases. We just had an update of the OCN node. We promoted a bug fix, which was to the custom OCPI module body handling in the OCN node. So that was released at the end of September. It's the RC2 version of 1.0. So the Docker image and the Bitbucket jar is available for download. Yeah, and that's maybe a good segue then to the upcoming releases, which we have soon, which is finally the production release of OCN 1.1. This is very exciting. It's not new functionality that isn't available in the QA and the test network, but we've run it through some additional testing. We've fixed bugs that we found, and we're ready to promote it to production. So the target date for that is end of week. We're hoping to have it released by Friday. So there will be updates to the OCN node and the OCN registry. We'll provide some instructions on how to update the OCN node. Just for folks who are not aware of what we've been working on recently, the OCN 1.1 will consist of the service interface update that Chris mentioned, and it will consist of hub client info functionality. I definitely recommend that folks, like Chris mentioned, check out the Medium article to better understand the service interface. And the hub client info is standard OCPI functionality, where we allow the OCN node to communicate the status of parties, whether or not they're offline, online, or planned parties that have connected to the registry but aren't yet available. Yeah, so that's exciting to have the 1.1 out coming by the end of this week to production. And then another minor update that I've noted there is the OCN Notary 1.0.1 JVM package, just promoting that out of beta. I'll have that done in the next couple of days, and that will actually be integrated into the 1.1 OCN for production. I think that's it here. With that, I think I'm going to move on to the documentation update, and I will share my screen for that. So hopefully you can all see my screen now. This is the issues list that we have. But what I wanted to show was this new page that we added regarding testing tools. So it just notes the OCPI address location for 2 parties that we have available on the test network. So we have a CPO and a mock EMSP available on the public test network. To better understand what they do, you can go through the OCN demo, or you can look at the tutorial servers repository. They have a few of the OCPI modules implemented, not all of them. They have, in the case of the CPO, locations and tariffs, and the EMSP has the CDR's receiver interface, and they both have some command module functionality. As I mentioned, I'd recommend going through the demo to better understand what they can do. But it could be pretty helpful if you want to test your OCPI implementation. Okay, that's all I wanted to mention regarding documentation. And then what I wanted to show next is a new issue template. So Ajan, who's on the call, another one of our developers, helped implement this issue template. So what we've done is add it to each of the Open Charging Network repositories. So when you create a new issue, this dialog here will appear. We've got a prerequisites component and then a bug and an enhancement component, depending on the type of issue that one is logging. The prerequisites component can be removed once the issue is logged. Another thing I would note is that we, for a support request, recommend that folks go to Stack Overflow and use the Share&Charge tag. Anything else to add on the issues template, Chris or Ajan?
No, it's fine so far, but we have to mention that we also have a Slack community, so folks can also ask the question there. So that's it from my side.
Right. Okay. that's all I wanted to mention regarding the issues template. Oh, although it's, yeah, we're looking for feedback too. So if you have any thoughts on the issues template, it's a work in progress, and you can certainly make updates. Okay, so with that, I'd like to move to the proposals and issues section of the call. The one proposal that we have marked for discussion is this one here at the top, which is allow third-party services to intercept and change OCPI requests. So we'll move on to that shortly. If anyone else wants to discuss another proposal or issues, we'll certainly have time for that later in the call. So I will open this issue here, this proposal that Chris submitted recently, and I'll let him give a quick overview of what it is.
Yeah, thank you, John. Yeah, I was stumbling across this feature basically with a conversation with an external partner. And yeah, basically what it is about is a further step for the OCN Service Interface. As John was describing, the current functionality of the OCN Service Interface is that OCPI requests between two parties get forwarded automatically to a third-party service. And this proposal is that an OCPI request cannot only be forwarded, but also, or optional, the OCPI request from one party can be intercepted by an OCN node, then forwarded to the OCN service, and the OCN service could then update or make changes to this request, and then again feed it back to the traditional two-way communication, and the intended receiver receives then only the updated OCPI request. This could be, for example, a POI enhancement service, and a location gets sent from a CPO to an EMSP, and now this feature of the OCN node is intercepting this update of the location, is sending it to the service is adding certain data fields, or is changing, for example, latitude, longitude of the station, and is then feeding it back and sending it to the original intended receiver. This is basically bringing a next level into the OCN service interface and allowing more functionality for the external services, or OCN services, how we call them.
Maybe two concrete use cases that I can think of are, the first one is dynamic pricing. So the MSP asks for the tariff for a location, and the answer is routed back to a DSO who adapts the pricing to match the current grid load. So it's more expensive in high use times. The other would be a reservation service where the service flags locations as being reserved or not, depending on the state, which is not maybe something that the CPO doesn't know about.
Yeah, very good ideas. So there is potential definitely for that there are services that need this. From one service, I know it very concretely. And Micha, I guess for the ones that you mentioned, there's also some concrete, or there could be some concrete projects behind, right? Now the question is like how this can be implemented. I guess that's the biggest question for me. And Adam, you already had some ideas. Maybe we discuss them quickly. I guess we have some time now.
Sure. So the first way would be that the intercepted message is sent to the service. The service modifies the request, or it could be the response as well, as Misha said. They would then need to forward that modified request to the original recipient, receive the response from the recipient, and ultimately then respond to the original request that was sent from the sender. The second option could be to automate it a bit within the OCN, where the service receiving the request then actually responds with their modified request, and then it's up to the OCN to handle the forwarding. This could be nicer from a service provider perspective. They don't have to, or their responsibility is reduced. But coming up with a nice way to do this that doesn't break OCPI too much could be a challenge, because ultimately here then you would be responding somehow with the modified request rather than with the response. And the OCN needs to be able to handle that, as well as the service itself. For them, it's not exactly like they can just look at the OCPI documentation and see the type of response that is required for the request. They need to actually be responding with the modified request. Perhaps there's a callback URL we could specify. But yeah, the first option is the one that plays the nicest with OCPI currently. The second option could be nicer. Yeah, from the service perspective, they don't have so much responsibility then. They aren't the ones that need to forward then the request again. But yeah, that's the kind of two implementations I thought of so far.
John, could you maybe scroll down a little bit? Because I guess they're written out there, right?
Yeah. Sorry, yeah.
I can't
There's
really.
been some discussion here already. One question I had was that I just thought of hearing Mika's use cases was whether or not it would be valuable to also modify the responses when they come back.
Yeah, and I think this is, yeah, this makes more sense than it did for forwarding. I think the technical solution there was also more difficult. I actually can't remember the reason why, but this would make more sense, yeah, if you could intercept the response as well.
Well,
I mean, the overall feature. Oh, sorry, go ahead, Mika.
one reason it could be more difficult to implement this response mechanism is if there were some different criteria. Like, if we take the pricing example, one CPO might have charge points with multiple DSOs, and these DSOs might actually be close enough together that charge points from multiple DSOs come back in one response. So how do you deal with this? So it's half the response should go to one DSO, the other half to the other DSO. They both enrich it, and then the response comes back together at the end. It's kind of tricky. Or is it the responsibility of the requester to split their request accordingly so that they receive responses that work together?
I mean, from my perspective, like what the idea of the OCN is, at least from my point of view, is taking off work like from the CPOs and EMSPs. So if we can implement it in a way where CPOs and EMSPs don't have to do much, basically, that would be at least my preferred way.
Does that include the services, Chris? When you're saying the CPOs and MSPs?
No, I would say the services, yeah, from my point of view, they want to offer a service, so they should be happy to implement some logic that their services work with the OCN, I guess. So no, that would not include the services.
Okay. One other question I had, if I could ask you to elaborate, Adam, a bit on what you mean by OCPI breaking with the second approach that you detailed. One thought I had was perhaps we could use a custom module where the request has the kind of encapsulates the initial request and the response is the modified request. To me, that would still be within OCPI, although it's a custom module.
Yeah, this is when I mentioned like a callback URL that you might specify, also the sending node specifies a callback URL, which is perhaps related to a custom module where the service then would respond to.
Right.
Or yeah, you could maybe just create the whole request response between the sending node and the service, and kind of wrap it in a custom module. Perhaps that's also possible. So then the service knows, how to respond with this custom with this modified response. Could also work.
This was then, or would enable the second way of implementing it. Did I get that right?
Yeah.
Okay. I'll make that easier.
I mean, I still prefer the first way, and I think, as you said, Chris, the service wants to offer their service. A little bit of routing logic on their side is not the worst thing that they need to do.
Yeah.
Yes, the brief discussion that we had already in the issue comments here regarding adding headers in order to implement the first approach seems to me to be relatively simple to implement.
Yeah, the problem here is that the service needs to know who the original recipient actually is, because the sending OCN node, when it sort of initiates this interception, needs to change the OCPI2 headers so that it's routed to the service rather than the original recipient. The service is able to read the original recipient via the OCN signature, but yeah, there's not a nice way to do this. I mean, the notary library that we have doesn't offer an easy way to just search through the history of a signature or get this information quickly. So we could just an optional header that would not impact normal OCPI usage, but just benefit the service then that they instantly know who this message should be routed to.
And this optional header needs that to be filled by the original sender, or is that something that the OCN node is putting in there?
Yeah, I think, did I comment this? I saw like a opportunity to automate this. So yeah, the original or the sending OCN node can set that.
Okay.
And we also have then, what is that? So the from headers as well. Yeah, when the service then forwards this modified request, they would need to modify the from headers, and they could also include then the original from being the original sender, the CPO, when they send it to the MSP. And this could also actually be done by the OCN node of the service.
Wouldn't it be more elegant to implement a go back in time function for the notary?
Yeah, I agree. But also another thing to consider is that signatures are currently optional still, at least in the test network. So if there's no signatures, then there's absolutely no way of knowing.
Yeah, but if there's no signature,
it's not secure.
No,
well, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's not in production, it's not usable. So we always agreed on that. And we can also agree on the fact that certain features just need signatures and they're not usable without them. And the get original header function from the notary would also help if you have multiple redirects. I mean, it would be nice if the redirection is not limited to just one hop, but you can have any number of hops. So you can have, I don't know, the DSO who does not take care of the pricing themselves, but they redirect it to an aggregator who knows better what the status of the grid is, and then this aggregator sends it. So that then you have multiple signatures there.
And doing that with the OCPI or with these OCPI headers as Adam proposed, that would not work then. Or do I get you correctly?
It might.
It might. Okay,
But wouldn't the OCN then on the second hop consider that the original sender was the DSO?
Yeah,
and
I think
change that?
It would only go back one step in history. So
maybe I'm overcomplicating it.
I mean, if we find a use case for that, or if there is any requirement from outside that we need multiple hops, then yeah, we should implement it like that. I guess for now I'm searching for the quickest way of implementing it, and if that is the notary, then it is the notary. If that is the OCPI headers,
I kind of disagree on the argument that we should go the fastest or the easiest route. If we have time to do it, then we should go the most elegant route.
Yeah, also true. How do we take this further? I mean, from my side, I would argue more requirement gathering is needed. Definitely.
We should at least have, let's say, 3 use cases where this makes sense, so that we can derive the actual requirements from these use cases.
Yeah, agreed. Yeah, then I would definitely take that with me. And yeah, you guys reach out to me if you have concrete ideas or use cases in mind, or even projects that reach out. Mich and Adam, for your current project that you're doing, is that something that you need, or is that the current implementation of the service interface enough?
forwarding is fine for now. I hadn't
Okay.
considered interception.
Okay. Good.
I think I noted it, but the being able to look in more easily in the notary, and I think we talked about it in the last call too, would be useful for forwarding as well. So that there's also that benefit to implementing this. It also helps the forwarding aspect of the service interface.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess then until the next developer call, I would gather more requirements and yeah, we discuss further then on Bitbucket how to implement it in the best way. There's no super urgency for it, so we can just take it further and gather more requirements and yeah, discuss ideas. Okay,
great.
thanks guys. Cool.
With that, I will open it up to any other issues or proposals that folks want to talk about. We only had that one proposal slated for the agenda. Well, I can mention that we've got a couple other issues that we're working on. Version here. We're working on this issue that Christopher Cook from Open Charge Map reported, where the Gradle builds for the OCN node are expecting a directory. And then we're also looking to, in the upcoming weeks, enhance the OCN demo with the hub client info so that the folks can get a handle on how that works. I didn't really want to go into detail into those issues, just thought we'd mention that we have them on the go. Is there anything else that anyone would like to discuss in this call? If not, feel free to always comment on the Bitbucket issues themselves. I will pass it over back to Chris then to close out the call. And if anyone thinks of any other questions or points for discussion, we've got some time remaining. So back over to you, Chris.
Okay, cool. Yeah, let me quickly share my screen for a final slide. For everyone, a quick reminder that we have some resources online. As already said, the documentation is on docs.openchargenetwork.org, repositories on code.openchargenetwork.org, and we have a Slack community. Just drop us a mail, then we add you to this, and we would have a next community call then at the 10th of November at 5 p.m. again, and you're invited to join again.
Thank you.
Cool. Anything else from someone? If not, then I would close it. Okay.
Good from my end.
Bye.
Bye-bye, guys.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye. Thank you.